They didn't see us coming, but we can make it alone. My heartbeat is drumming, but my head's in the zone. Now hearts may be broken, and tears they may fall, but after decades of hoping, it's nice to be here at all. They didn't see us coming, but we can make it alone. Let's just believe until we have to go home.
We're finally here, folks. Good morning to you. Welcome to, I think this is now the 5th Euro breakfast, but it is the most important one so far because no Scotland, no party. We're here, we're in the tournament today, and I'm joined by two guys I'm delighted to get on the show. I think you'll really appreciate their insight as well. Firstly, I'll start down the bottom with the man who I've done a lot of things with pure football in the past. Gavin set it up, and he is now a full-time analyst, so he's turned football into his career. He's a top man. How you doing, Gav? Welcome in.
That's a really nice intro there, Mozza. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, I'm doing... How are you?
Very well, mate. Well, I haven't slept, but other than that, very And on my right-hand side, as you're watching here, if you're not following the Tartan Scarf on Twitter, get it done, because Gordon lives and breathes Scotland more than anyone that you'll ever meet. And he's got a cracking preview that you should be listening to the Czech game before we get into it. So welcome in, and congratulations on just getting married as well, Gordon. How are you?
Yes, thank you very much, Mozza. Delighted to be here. I can't quite believe today's here. Obviously, a week past Saturday, I fulfilled one of my lifetime ambitions and put a ring on it. And now today, I will fulfill another lifetime ambition and get to see Scotland at major finals again as an adult. I was 9 last time, so what a day!
Yeah.
What a day.
I won't ask you to rank those lifetime ambitions and orders.
You don't need to. You don't need to ask that. You know the answer.
But we won't go straight into Scotland propaganda, folks. We will start, as always, with yesterday's games, run through them into previews for today, and then it will just be about half hour, 40 minutes worth of full, well, Lyndon Dykes chat and so on. But okay, we need to start with our group, don't we? Really, England-Croatia was the first game on the slate yesterday, and wasn't it the most exciting game? Croatia let me down a wee bit. I felt like they just didn't particularly play very well, but England got the result, and I don't know how that's going to impact our game next up with them, but they looked pretty confident, pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I thought I would say they were comfortable, but it was a standard sort of performance from England. I feel like the number 11, so the 11 players they put out are all very exciting players, but when they come together, they don't seem to have that, gel in terms of how they play. It seems very stagnant. At times it can be quite broken. I think Harry Kane yesterday really struggled. And I think the key player was Calvin Phillips. I thought he had a really good game, and all the good things that happened was sort of through him. And I guess I know we don't want to get into the Scotland chat just yet, but that game it added to the optimism about what we can do, because I don't feel like we should be scared of either of those teams if that's the level of performance they're going to put out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What do you think, Gordon?
Yeah, I think for first games in tournaments are always funny ones, aren't they? I think managers, players, they always tell you, so long as you just win your first game in a tournament, no matter how it comes, it can come in the worst performance with the worst goal you've ever seen. But if you get that 3 points, you've got the momentum, you're rolling, and you can build a tournament progression from there. So I think England will obviously be delighted to get that win, especially the weather down in London yesterday looked absolutely miserable for football. What was it, like 28, 29 degrees? It's no real surprise the game was played at walking pace for most of it. But I think Gav is absolutely right that, there shouldn't be much for, apologies, there shouldn't be much for Scotland to fear out of those two. And I think certainly coming to Friday night, a night game will be well up for it. It will hopefully be a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah, as much credit as England have had in the time since, I still don't feel that they were that impressive. Like, they did enough, obviously. They didn't need to do any more and get the 3 points. You basically need 4 points to get through these groups, in most cases, with the third place kind of stipulation. But I agree with it. I agree with it too. I don't think there's much to fear for us there in either game, that we can go and play our game. We don't need to kind of worry too much about what happens if. Like, if we go and play our game and play at the top of our ability, I think we'll get through this group. Like, I've been pretty confident about that for the last month or so, but even more so on the basis of yesterday, because Croatia were... I did kind of fear them a wee bit, I'll be honest. We know what England are capable of, and we've gone toe-to-toe with them recently, but I don't know, Croatia just didn't really seem at it. It was a strange performance.
Well, do you know what's interesting about that, actually? Just to give a wee sort of a wee spoiler, a wee preview. Obviously, I've done interviews for the Tartan Scarf podcast with people from Croatia, with Czech Republic, and England, and I've already recorded all three. And the guy from Croatia, he was remarkably down on their team's chances coming into these finals. I mean, obviously, yes, they got to the World Cup final in 2018. That was 3 years ago, and he was very much of the opinion that this team have regressed. That was very much the last hurrah for a very golden generation of players, and this team have very much regressed from there. Now, admittedly, to regress from a World Cup final, you're still probably going to be quite a high level, but he certainly felt like they're not coming into this tournament in any kind of great shakes, and that was certainly borne out in their performance yesterday.
By the way, Samuel, I've just seen your message and I flagged it up. Hope you're feeling a bit better, mate. Not the day you want to be in hospital watching us or watching the game, so fingers crossed you're getting it pronto. But I don't really think there's much to kind of lurk on with the England game, other than they did their job efficiently, as who was in the chat there I flagged up, Gashead said. Phillips was outstanding, really good, but they just picked the right team. And
I don't think the defence was tested yesterday.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. But they picked the right team for going forward, and Sterling justified his selection. I'm still not particularly scared of Sterling if he plays in Scotland, I'll be honest. Because he did miss an absolute guilty chance as well, and that's what he does. He misses too many chances from me. But if they...
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you there, Mozza.
Oh, you go, mate. Jump in.
Sorry. I was just going to say on two things. One, about what you mentioned about England's defence. In one of our group chats yesterday, I said that so Croatia have a striker called Ante Budimir, and he's a big target man. And I feel like when it comes to us playing England, we need to have Lyndon Dykes terrorising Tyrone Mings. I think that just being very physical against them, and I think you'll get success. And on the Sterling point as well, I don't think he'll get the sort of chances that he got yesterday against us either. And not to be overly bullish or optimistic, but I don't see us leaving lots of spaces for him to run into. I think it'll be really congested when they have the ball. So I think we'll have a really... I feel like I'm turning into Gordon here with my levels of optimism. But
it's working.
Yeah. But I think it'll be really difficult for England to create good chances against us, is how I feel about it.
I agree. I think Dykes has to start in that game. It wouldn't surprise me if Dykes starts all three games, in all honesty. I know he's not technically the best striker we've got, but he just gives you so much in terms of roughing up a defence. And I saw a great tweet yesterday, just generally on the tournament, that old school number 9 is making a comeback in this tournament with the games we've seen. Obviously, Zhuba's a guy that's known pretty well with Russia, but every team so far seems to have had an old school number 9 that has played well. We had Wales, you've had Ukraine last night. But it's just nice to see something a little bit different coming through again. It's not all you're lightning fast on the shoulder guys. You're beginning to find a place again for a target man. It feels like.
Can I give you a big shout? Because I feel like, look, it's early in the morning. It's the day of Scotland's first game. I feel like it's time for a big shout. 2018, France won the World Cup with Olivier Giroud centre forward. Didn't have a shot on target. Didn't score a goal. Lyndon Dykes can be our Olivier Giroud. I honestly believe that, because the way that he makes space for others, he's the battering ram. You know, you look at the goal that McGinn scored against the Faroe Islands, the header, where he's only got that space to score that header because Dykes has made the run to the front post, dragged their 6'6" centre back to the front post, space behind for McGinn to score. So Dykes neither gets the goal nor the assist, but that goal doesn't happen without him. So I agree with you. I think he starts every game, and I think he's crucial in the way that we can play and we can succeed.
Right, so before we get too far into it, let's get through the rest of the games. Because we're all champing at a bit, aren't we? So move on to two brilliant games. I felt like we were spoiled yesterday. So Austria beat North Macedonia 3-1 with one of the angriest celebrations of all time from Arnautovic when he sealed it. But I was actually really impressed with North Macedonia. Like, unlike some teams who have just sat back and kind of hope for the best on a direct ball forward, they played their own game and they were up until 20 minutes to go right in with a shout in that game. And they just lost the legs in the end. But like, again, there was a bit of a throwback there, a kind of old school eccentric wee keeper who was just flapping everywhere, making saves that he shouldn't have made. He ended up making a mistake, but there was just loads to enjoy about that game, I felt like. I'll let whoever jumps in.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was again a great game, really exciting, and you're right, Macedonia were a little bit of a surprise package. I can't say I knew much about I knew some of the individual players, obviously, but didn't know much about them as a collective unit. Couldn't believe that Goran Pandev is still kicking about at 37, which is amazing, and obviously for him to score was really good when you're talking about throwbacks. But yeah, I think Austria, they've got a lot of good players, and I was speaking to one of my friends who's half Austrian, and what he said is that, again, it seems to be a thing with national teams, like the sum of their parts doesn't actually deliver what it should. Not the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, because it's the opposite of that, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, they're just not a collective unit, and I think that if they can click together, then Austria could be a bit of a sneaky team to deal with, because Sasa Kaladzic up front, 6'7", is an absolute monster. You talk about target man, you don't get much bigger than him. So it was a good game, and it's been an amazing tournament so far.
What were your thoughts, Gordon? Did you get to see the Austria game?
Only bits and bobs of it. I was actually at a spa yesterday because I am technically still on honeymoon, so I'm sort of very much juggling honeymoon with the Euros, which, thank God, my wife is a very patient woman. So bits and bobs of it. But I think the wider thing to say on that game is that what a triumph this is for the Nations League. Obviously, that was Scotland's path, that was North Macedonia's path. They've never been to finals before, and the fact that you've got Pandev scoring, those are the kind of moments that can truly bring a nation together and inspire them. So lovely to see. Austria, as Gav said, they're a very solid side, as we learned back in March. I think they can certainly do something at this tournament. And Kaladzic, what a player he is!
The thing that got me with Austria was the first two goals were unbelievable crosses. Sabitzer and Alaba, and that kind of quality's been lacking a wee bit in games so far, I felt like, but they took advantage of their chances with those moments of quality. And I think that I might have been a wee bit harsh on them in the preview, thinking that they were quite a boring team, because they were a decent watch, to be honest, yesterday as well. I'd love to see Arnautovic come off the bench again the next game and get angry again. That was something special. And then final game yesterday again was an absolute belter. Netherlands playing host to Ukraine, 2-0 up, almost threw the jerseys away in the space of 3 minutes, and then stole it again at the death. But a Frank de Boer team in an exciting game full of goal shocker. What were your thoughts? I really enjoyed it.
Oh, you go, Gordon. You go first.
Oh, yeah, no, sure. Obviously, game of the tournament so far, absolutely brilliant. I mean, this is what you remember from all your summers and your rose-tinted glasses. A game with classic teams, great kits, goals going back and forth. Great commentary. Ali McCoy's just sitting chuckling away to himself, just frankly loving life. It was brilliant. But I guess it shouldn't have come as a big surprise that the Netherlands almost chucked it away, because in the friendly against Scotland, they are not the team of old. This is not Schneider, Van Persie, etc. They're a decent side, but they don't need to be feared. And I think Ukraine did very well to really put a fright under them.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Gav?
Yeah, I thought it was an amazing game. Absolutely game of the tournament so far. Watched it with my missus last night. Both really enjoyed it. And I think it's games like that that make it easier to watch football as a family when there's lots happening. And, I think Alan McCoist on comms was just added to that game. I think he's, I've seen a lot of people saying that all he does is laugh and chuckle away. I think it's brilliant. Makes it, it just breaks it up a bit rather than it being super serious all the time. But in terms of the game, it was amazing. I loved it. And some of the goals were spectacular, right? Yarmolenko's into the top corner was just next level.
Phenomenal.
But yeah, I thought it was just a great game. And it just encapsulates why we love these tournaments, right? Like, these sort of end-to-ends. You think a team's out of a game 2-0 down, they fight back, and then obviously that heartbreak as well of Denzel Dumfries. Shout out to Denzel Dumfries for having a great surname. Scoring the winner. But yeah, it was just perfect, just exactly what you want to see. Exciting football. Just perfect.
I must admit, I'm a massive fan of McCoist. I'm obviously slightly biased with that, given that he is Scottish, but I think he's a bridge between the person watching at home who's not fully into all these teams and knowing every player, and kind of too serious analyst. He's a perfect foil for a commentator that can just kind of give it a bit of gravitas. And whatever you think about Clive Tilsley, he gave it that. When the goals went in, he gave it a bit of oomph compared to some of the other commentators that have been so far. And I can't believe they're the second choice commentary team for ITV. Like, what are they thinking? They're miles ahead of the other commentators we've had so far. Miles.
And to be fair, I think the best thing about McCoist on co-coms is that he quite clearly is enjoying what he's doing, and he's enjoying what he's seeing, and that love and joy, it pours through the screen. So if you're sitting at home watching the game, you're enjoying it as much as he is. I mean, goodness gracious! I mean, I remember, growing up, it was always Mark Lawrenson on co-coms who gave you the entire impression through the whole game that he'd rather be at home doing the dishes. I mean, he would complain. You know what I mean? Like, genuinely, he would give you the impression that he didn't want to be there. He was like, "Oh, for God! Oh, he's gone down again. Oh, I bet he's not injured." And you're like, "What are you playing at? You're at a major finals. You're being paid to be there. We're not. We're sitting at home. Like, you're so lucky. Enjoy it." And that's what McCoist gives you. So just the love of life and love of football, and that's why he's great. And it's lovely now. Up in Scotland, we've known about McCoist forever, and it's nice he's getting the recognition from everywhere now.
Yeah, I think it's a full UK wide thing now that people just love him, like co-commentary and otherwise as well. He's kind of carved his niche out. It feels like
he's your favourite uncle.
He is. Like, I saw somebody in the chat saying it's like your granda watching the football with you. Yeah, but just give me a combo of Derek Ray and Ali McCoist at some point. That's just the dream. Slightly biased because I'm a big pal of Derek Ray. So, but let's get into today's games. And before we go full kind of highs, lows, worries, hopes, all that kind of thing, let's go to Poland Slovakia. The middle game, a game that you'd think Poland's probably got the upper hand in, but we've seen Slovakia quite recently. Scotland wise, and they weren't too bad, so I think I'll give Poland a game.
Yeah, I think this will be really tough game. I think it's going to be like a game of chess. The two teams just sort of trying to figure each other out. Probably quite similar in terms of what we've seen with England yesterday. Maybe lack a little bit of quality and the sort of key areas. I would say that both these teams have got some really exciting individuals. But I do think Poland should have enough to do it. I mean, how can you not back Robert Lewandowski to deliver the goods? The guy's just an absolute monster when it comes to scoring goals. What I would say is that I can't believe that Paulo Sousa is their manager. I must have completely missed that. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. He's had like 10 jobs in the last 10 years. So, could maybe hit lightning and a bottle in this game. But yeah, should be. We enjoy football for different reasons. It doesn't always have to be 3-2 like last night. But I think just watching that intensity of the players will be on show today. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes.
Paulo Sousa is a weird one because they scooshed their qualifying. They absolutely scooshed it. And for whatever reason, he just decided that, I can't pronounce the guy's name, so forgive me, Jerzy Brzezek wasn't worthy of it. But you'd expect a big name to come in that hasn't been in about 10 jobs in 10 years, if that's the case. It's just a weird one overall. But yeah, how'd you see this game going, Gordon?
Yeah, I think this one's an interesting one, and it's probably set up quite similarly to the way that Scotland and the Czech Republic are set up today, in that, you know, both teams know that they've still got Spain to play in the group. So to start with a win here would basically give them a massive boost of getting into the knockout stages with that game against Spain to come. And Sweden, again, they're maybe not exactly coming in the same vein as they have done in previous tournaments, but they're still a decent side with some really, especially outstanding young players. It seems like they seem to be a better team without Ibrahimovic, kind of, because they maybe, unlike Poland, they maybe don't rely on that focal point anymore, and it's more about the collective unit. So, it'll be very interesting to see how that group pans out. I mean, frankly, I think it's quite hard to actually pick who's going through out of that group.
Just a quick one, Slovakia or Sweden. That's maybe my fault for zooming through it there.
Oh no, sorry, no, just as in I'm sorry, as in
you just meaning the
other team of the group, as in just the wider group. Yes,
that's cool. I was just making sure that I hadn't messed anything up there, because it has been known. It has been very well known. But yeah, I think that kind of covers that game. And then Spain-Sweden, we'll get right into it then in that case, because as you say, without Ibra, they're still a decent squad, but you can't look past Spain in this one, can you?
Yeah, I would say so. I think Spain should have the quality. Although Sweden are on, I think they've won their last 5 in a row. So, you know, going into the tournament with a bit of whether you believe in form or not, but it's, you know, going to be going into the tournament confident. And I don't know if Spain are quite as good as they were, you know, maybe 10 years ago, but they're still a very dangerous team. And you would fancy them, obviously, but I just don't know. I think Sweden could maybe get a draw in this game. I don't know. I just feel like that momentum behind you, you know, going into and actually, you know, sometimes the underdog status suits teams. So I think that it'll be maybe not as straightforward as you think, and I am excited to see how this one plays as well. I feel like that's what I've said about every game. I don't know if I'm giving it away that I'm extremely excited for this tournament and everything that's happening. So I'm going to say, you know what, I'll give you your first shock. I'm going to say Sweden upset Spain today. That's my prediction.
There's a shout. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, as someone in the comments is pointing out, obviously Spain have had their COVID issues. They've had a few players in isolation. I mean, their preparation has been quite severely disrupted. So, you know, I think a shock could be on there.
It's not a bad shout, to be fair. Like, looking at purely talent levels, you would still say Spain's probably get a bit more, but just with the upheaval, there's been a bit of kind of to and fro with the squad as well, that they only picked 24 when they could add 26. They had a separate squad training that might get pulled a couple of guys in here and there. It just doesn't seem very settled to me.
No, definitely not.
It's weird that only they've gone that approach as well. Every other country just selected the 26. And Spain's got a different route, so we'll see how that impacts things. I think Laporte is a big pick-up for them, given that it's stunning he's not had a France cap. Absolutely stunning. So I can understand why he's going to Spain, but I think he'll probably start. Do you think?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the guy's an absolute machine. He's top class. He's literally one of the best defenders in the world, you know, playing at a extremely high level. And it is absolutely bizarre that France didn't try and make more of getting him into their international setup. And whilst France obviously have got some excellent defenders as well, I'm pretty sure you can make room for Laporte. It's not, you know, you're not trying to squeeze in some jobber. You're actually, you know, it's a world-class player that, you know, could really help the team. But yeah, I think Laporte starts for me. I'd be very surprised if he didn't.
Yeah, and they did pick 24 and still leave Ramos at home. Yeah, so that's the big call, I think, that
end of an
everyone
era.
will look at for Spain. End of an era, exactly. And we need to see if he stays at Real or not, because that's up in there now, and we'll see how that plays out. But with that, we have 35 minutes left of this. stream today, and guess what it's going to be filled with? As someone in the chat said there, a tartan grenade has been set off in the Euro breakfast this morning. Scotland versus Czech Republic. I'm equal parts nervous, excited, scared. I just can't wait. I need 2 o'clock to be here now. I am not doing any work today. If my boss is watching, I apologise. It's just not going to happen. Like, I don't really know where to start with this other than just get it here and get it over with and let me shed a tear.
Sorry, on you go, Gordon.
No, I was just going to say, I almost feel like, last night and into this morning, I've almost had just a tiny little insight into, why footballers always say, we're taking it one game at a time, we're going to play the game, not the occasion, and all this sort of stuff. Because, I mean, I've been an emotional wreck. Like, frankly, I'm not even sure if I'm going to be able to tie my shoelaces to leave the house in a couple of hours, let alone go out and play football at an elite level. So, I mean, God knows how these players are actually coping with the enormity of what they're about to do. So hopefully they are just, like you said, like they always say, just playing the game, not the occasion.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
It. On you go.
Sorry, no. I was just going to say the same as Gordon. It is crazy the mindset that you need to have to be able to just switch off from, I guess, all the noise, all the pressure. You'll have loads of people texting you, wishing you good luck, and all this sort of stuff. But the second that you're out on that park, you have to forget it all and just start delivering the goods. And I think that we've definitely seen a shift in the mindset from the Scottish players in terms of their outputs, and that probably comes down to how they go into these games, like Gordon sort of mentioned there. So yeah, it's definitely going to be, to use my catchphrase of today, exciting to see how this one goes.
I mean, I quite liked what Steve Clark said yesterday when he was kind of asked about like nerves and experience going into this. He kind of listed through basically experience isn't an issue because we've got guys that have played in Champions League finals recently. We've got guys that have been to European finals. So he's going through Robertson, Gilmore, McTominay, all these kind of players. He himself has coached a team that's been in a Champions League final in the not too distant past. Stephen Reid's got experience of being there on the coaching staff in a major tournament. So I don't think we need to worry about that side of things. There's enough good influences there of guys that have been in big games in this squad to avoid any kind of getting too amped up, for example, and having no energy as the game goes on. But it'll be impossible for them not to be really excited about playing, not just in an international tournament again, but at home as well. Yeah. Is that going to help us or hinder us?
I think it helps. 100%. I think it helps because it's Hampden. I mean, as much as when this tournament got confirmed, and it was host cities, not a host nation. That felt a bit kind of, is it going to be as great as it always is? But no, I think this will definitely be a benefit to us. I mean, just those tiny little micro traditions and habits that the players will have. They walk around the pitch, they know where the stands are, they know, those little things that the players always talk about. I mean, footballers can be some of the most superstitious people on the planet. So the fact that they're, and I think I read somewhere that we are technically the home team in this game. So that means we'll have the home team dressing room. So again, we're getting ready. It's the same dressing room. Yeah, it looks a bit different, but yeah, I just think those rhythms will kick in very quickly.
Here's hoping.
There's a couple of things that also I think go in favour for us. Is I think when I checked, and I don't want to be overly quoted on this, but I believe that the Czech Republic have only beat a team from the UK once in their last 11 occasions. So they've lost to Northern Ireland. Their only win was against England in 2019. They've not beat us in the last 4. So I think there's lots of positivity that we can take into this. And I was just going to a very, very quick plug, which you probably expected, but Ali Madden has done an incredible job of covering all the teams in the Euros. And there's a podcast that came out with Thomas Stanchek, who runs a Czechoslovakia football Twitter account and gives really good insight into what to expect from them. So I would be sure to, it's 20 minutes to listen to it to get a quick feel for them. So if you've got time today before the game to do so and you're not a nervous wreck, then digest some of that to help you understand what to expect. But I think all that did when I listened to it was channeled my positivity even more so. I don't think we need to be scared of these, and I think one of the things that was said, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, Mozza, but they only have, their main centre back is a kid called David Sima, who was playing for Slavia Prague. So they're not confident in their centre back pairing, and I would be saying, as soon as you hear that, that's like music to Lyndon Dykes' ears.
Yeah.
That's the sort of games that he's set for, centre back partnerships that don't often play together, that maybe don't want to be roughed up. That just, I really hope that he starts today. I know, we're all excited about Shea Adams, but this just feels like a Dykes game for me.
I think it has to be a Dykes game, purely for the nature of the way the Czechs play. They are quite a rough and tumble side at times, just to try and kind of make an impression on their opponents. Like, they do have quality where it matters. Somebody mentioned Souček in the chat already. I noticed that. Obviously, he's their main kind of force coming from midfield. Patrick Schick up front's a great player. We know kind of Kremenchik, these kind of players that they've got as well. But I genuinely think we've got a really decent kind of setup to combat what they do. And actually, I should say before we go any further, firstly, Gavin's plug is bang on. Get that listen to the Pure Football preview podcasts. Are phenomenal. Really good listens. And they're just wee short ones as well, so you're not going to spend a whole day listening to kind of endless analysis. It's just to give you a good impression of what country you're listening about. Obviously, I mentioned Gordon's at the start, but I'll mention it again here. He's got previews with all of our opponents in the bank ready to go, and the Czechia one is up, isn't it?
The Czech Republic one is up. It is actually with the same guy that Ali Madden spoke to for Pure Fitback, Thomas Danacek. If I can announce, actually, I did announce this on Twitter last night, but if anyone didn't see it, my guest for the England game, it's obviously the original international football fixture. I thought it needs a guest to match the gravitas of the moment. I was very lucky to speak to Henry Winter, chief football writer of The Times. He spent an hour with me, which was just so phenomenally generous of him. It's a really, really good chat. So that podcast will be out basically as soon as I get back from Hampden.
And there you go. There's a beautiful plug thrown in. But somebody has mentioned they're worried about misguided confidence. I mean, I think the confidence level that we've got is healthy and that we're not getting carried away with things, but there's been a mentality shift. There's definitely been a mentality shift in Scotland over the last couple of years, in that we know what we're capable of. And we're not scared of saying what we're capable of now, I think. You'll get some people having a laugh saying we're going to win it, when they clearly don't believe that. But there is no reason why we can't get through into the knockouts for the first time ever. And this, especially with that third place stipulation. I think a lot will rest on today's game, though. If we can get 3 points in this, we've got 1 foot in the knockouts, as it stands. Obviously, the other 2 games will come down to goal difference and getting an extra point here or there, but this is probably the biggest game we're going to face in the groups, I'd argue.
Yeah. Can I just jump in there? Because I think I take issue with the word misguided there. I really do. That won't surprise you. But I would replace that word misguided with the word earned, because I genuinely think that we are approaching this tournament with earned confidence, because this is a really good team. You look at our players. We've got great players. We've got a tactical system the players are buying into. We're coming in good form. The way that we played against the Netherlands was very impressive. We beat Luxembourg. Back to front, you look at our team is full of good players. Shea Adams, he's got 3.5 caps. He's got 2 goals and an assist. God knows how high he can soar with us. Robertson, Tierney, McGinn, McTominay. These are guys that are playing. I've watched Scotland my whole life, and we would often have 1 or 2 players that was playing at a decent level. A Darren Fletcher, a James McFadden. Now you can't even count the amount of players we've got playing at the highest level. And as you alluded to earlier, playing in the biggest games in football. So why not? Honestly, I wrote back in the turn of the year about the concept of glorious failure. And that I just feel like that was a mental millstone around our teams, around our players for the last 20 years. And I feel like we can leave that in the past now, because now we've achieved it. Monkeys off the back, qualification's done. The same as the women's team, they qualified for something. They went straight off and qualified for the next one. So I just think that all our successes are ahead of us, and this is we can actually look ahead to a future with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I see it as a positive for this squad that there's nobody really got that milestone attached, and that it's quite a young squad. This will probably be very similar to the squad that enters the next major tournament if we get into it in the World Cup.
Yep.
But it's only going to get better for this experience as well. Even if we do only play a few games and go out in the groups, it's going to be such an important step for this squad of players that are generally going to be together for the next probably 4 or 5 years, the way it looks.
Yeah. Which do you know what? That was actually why I became very keen that guys like Nathan Patterson and Billy Gilmore were involved in this squad.
Yeah.
Because the opportunity to spend basically a full month living with the squad, training with the squad, working with the squad. I mean, even if they don't play many minutes at this tournament, which I think actually they probably will, given we've got 5 subs in every game, you know, the benefit they will have going into World Cup qualifiers later in the year for having been embedded with this squad will be massive. Because like you said, those are guys that are going to be the future of this squad going forward. So they'll be ready to fly.
What are you thinking, Gavin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally echo everything Gordon said. I just wanted to quickly come to a comment that I noticed from the Brazzle Dazzle about Lyndon Dykes, about starting for Apollo Surfers. I think every footballer starts somewhere, right? Andy Robertson, we all know, played for Queen's Park. Yesterday, I think they mentioned Tyrone Mings got let go by Chippenham Town before getting a trial at Ipswich. So I think where someone started and how it's going for them are just two completely different things that it's not even really worth contrasting the two of them together. And whether I'm a Lyndon Dykes truther or not is maybe being unfolded right in front of your eyes. But I think that, we've got, as you both mentioned, lots of really exciting players playing at a high level, really capable players as well. It's not just like they're, all physical, bruisers. You've got someone like, Billy Gilmore at 18 who is technically incredible, incredible. And you don't want to overhype it. Not that my hype on Billy Gilmore will affect Billy Gilmore, but, it's amazing to see a player for Scotland that good at that age. And, we've got so much to be excited about. And I think you're right on, Patterson being in the squad, Gilmore being in the squad. It can only serve us good for the future, and I'm glad that they were both able to make it into this setup.
Definitely. I mean, the other thing is we seem to have addressed this whole Tierney Robertson scenario that was, again, it was kind of dragging the team a wee bit. Stevie Clark's had a look at it. He's tried a couple of things. He's found the balance, I feel like now, especially with Jack Henry on the other side of the centre-back trio. I just think that him and Tierney on either side are so well balanced. They're kind of getting forward at the right times. One stays back when the other goes up. Tierney and Robertson are probably as potent as any wing that you'll see in this tournament, I'd argue. Just for different reasons. Like, they're not going to be kind of gunning it down the wing all the time. Tierney's going to come underlap, and every so often he'll overlap it. There's confusion. That's the main thing that it builds up, especially if he's jumping on the end of balls. Why is a centre-back up getting on the end of a cross ball? But everything's in our favour to have a right good go at this tournament, is what I'd say. Yeah. Like, there's not even any big massive kind of injury doubts. Only really Mike Burney got injured in the build-up that I can think of that might have been in this squad. I might be missing one or two there, but I'm very positive about our chances, I must say.
Yeah. Do you know, I gave you that big shout earlier about Dykes being our Giroud. Well, there was an analogy I came up with a few weeks back that basically Andy Robertson is the nuclear deterrent of the squad, because in our team it's as much about the fear of what he can do is just as important as what he actually can do on the pitch. Yeah. Because you notice this in the World Cup qualifiers in March. The reason why Kieran Tierney often had 20, 30, 40 yards of empty space to bomb into is because Andy Robertson was staying wide and keeping the fullback honest and opening up that space for him. So again, the same way that I described earlier with Dykes, Robertson's not directly influencing the play there, but he's opening up all that space for Tierney, and that's where Tierney got a hat-trick of assists against the Pharaohs. So yeah, they're phenomenal players, and I'm so delighted they play together, because the debate of one or t'other was the most tiring thing I've ever heard in the Tarn Army.
So let's get into looking at who's going to play then, because as Sabo has mentioned, who we want to play and who Stevie's going to pick are two very different things. I don't think Gilmore starts this, even though I'd be starting him every day of the week. I think midfield's the main kind of question mark about who's actually going to get a jersey. Who do you think will be the trio? Centre mids anyway.
Gav, you ready? Go first.
I think it'll be McGregor, McTominay, and McGinn will be the three that will play. I think McGinn will be slightly more advanced, but that three, I don't think there'll be any major surprises there. I think that for the first game, as much as we all want Billy Gilmore to be playing and we're all excited about Billy Gilmore, I think there's an element of maybe keeping them in if you need them in the last 20 minutes to help try and break down a team or to help keep possession if you're ahead of the opponent. So I think it would be a little bit naive of Steve Clarke to throw him in. Whilst it's not to say that he isn't ready as an individual player, I think that, you know, the way that this team's set up, you have to remember that this is Billy Gilmore's first time, you know, sort of being around this sort of nucleus of players and being able to understand the system. So whereas Cal McGregor, whilst people, you know, people have got their frustrations with him, I think that it's an obvious pick for me, and I don't really dispute it too much if I'm being honest.
There's a reason he's played all the friendlies, isn't there? Even though he's played about 200 games in the last 2 years. He's crying out for a rest, the poor lad, but he's not really had a burnout as such. I don't feel like his level of performance isn't where it can be. That's easy enough to say, but he's more of a metronome for Scotland. He kind of, the role Barry Ferguson used to fulfil, that keep the play moving, find the easy pass and get it released to somebody to create something. He's not really used the same way as sometimes Celtic use him, a bit more advanced. So I think you can get away with him just doing the simple thing and being the kind of rock in the midfield, as you say, that knows the tactic back to front.
That's it. Do you have any different thoughts, Gordon?
No, I don't. I think you could name the starting 11 right now, and I think we'd get at least 10, probably 11 names right for later. But I think that's to the benefit of Steve Clarke and this team, that we've got consistency of selection. I mean, I remember back years past when a Scotland team would get announced, and if you tried to predict it, you might have only got 4 or 5 names right, and that's just, you know, I keep saying to people, it's not rocket science. Players that play together often become a better team. I mean, how did that not? Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. So no, I think Marshall in goals, Tierney, Hanley, Hendry, back three, O'Donnell, Robertson, wing backs, as you said, McTominay, McGregor, McGinn, midfield three, Dykes and Adams up front. That's it. That's the 11.
I think that'll be it, to be honest.
I think it has to be both. I think it has to be both Dykes and Adams. I think maybe for Wembley, when maybe we don't play with 2 central strikers, I think then it's Dykes on his own, because I think the way he wins the ball and can bring people into play is so essential. But I think for today's game, given, as we said, how shaky their defence could be, you need to go at them. You need to approach it with confidence and go out to win the game.
The only change I'd make there is I think he'll play Christie ahead of Adams. I think he'll be Christie and Dykes as the forward duo, because he always seems to fall on Ryan Christie in that role, kind of slightly hanging off the wing to come in centrally and find the through balls, or to get a pot shot away. Stuart Armstrong's been mentioned a couple of times in the chat that he could get a start as well. He's looked good in the build up, but yeah, I think Christie will be the default pick. He seems to be for Clarke anyway.
I think certainly what's exciting though is that, you know, you do, Steve Clarke will be very much bearing in mind that he's got 5 subs to play with here. So I mean, in terms of changing the system, changing the shape, changing the approach, and you look at those players, if we're going with that 11 that we've just discussed, the players that he's leaving on the bench, you know, Fraser, Patterson, Forrest, Armstrong, I mean, these are Nisbet, these are fast players, direct, who can really, you know, if the Czech Republic are starting to tire in the second half, that could be a real blitzing approach to go for the last 20. So
yeah, my only sorry,
no, sorry, I'm on you.
I was just going to say my only potential shock would be that Ryan Fraser might start rather than Ryan Christie. I think Ryan Fraser scored last time against the Czech Republic. I think just that raw pace, you know, he's got a pretty good delivery on him as well. I think that might be the only thing, but I would agree with Gordon on what you know, I'd like to see Adams and Dykes together with McGinn in behind, and be really adventurous and go for that sort of weak central area of the Czech Republic team. But if there is to be a curveball, I think it could be Ryan Fraser, just for his work rate, his ability to press, and again, it's just a different way of, I guess, applying the pressure to that Czech Republic backline. I think, you know, but yeah, that would be my only curveball if there was to be one.
I could say, I think that would be a wee bit more likely if he was fully fit. I'm still not convinced he's 100% from, like, he didn't really look fully fit in that friendly, did he? But he might have needed the game, in fairness.
He's not looked fit for about 3 years. I don't think he's
also
played.
true. He's not quite in the Lee Griffiths school of fitness, but he's not been available.
Although in fairness though, the thing I love about Ryan Fraser though is that he seems to time, especially this season at Newcastle, he seems to have timed his periods of fitness to coincide with international breaks, which is absolutely brilliant. And you hear the way that he speaks in interviews about playing for Scotland, and I think he literally said after the game earlier in the year that he would literally run through brick walls for Steve Clarke. So I mean, that's exactly the kind of guy you want in this squad and in this team.
I mean, we've got 26 of them, don't we? Just
yeah.
They're all fully committed to the cause. They're all on board. It feels like a proper team as well. That especially post Serbia, something happened with that team that's quite special. That you feel that if it was their choice, they would hang about with each other. There's a proper good atmosphere around this squad, which hasn't always been the case in years past. I'm just so excited. You can probably tell. There was a slight question coming in about the keepers. Assuming David Marshall keeps the number 1 jersey.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they made any changes in the back line. He's trusted Marshall, so yeah, it would be very odd, I think, to give the number 1 jersey to Craig Gordon now. Whilst he was a fine deputy, I still think that overall I'd rather have David Marshall in than Craig Gordon.
Here's a question coming in from the chat from DM. Do you see us going with wingers at all in this tournament, or do you think we'll stick with the 5 at the back throughout?
Gordon, do you want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've certainly spoken in the past about the need for Scotland to have a plan B, and I think when Clark came out of lockdown, he'd obviously spent months with his tactics board, and he came up with this 3 at the back system. That was clearly designed to lock the back door, because you have to bear in mind, you need to remember the context that when Clark took over, this team, they would fold mentally in games. We went away to Russia, kept them out for an hour, conceded 1, 20 minutes later it's 4-0. So getting the back door locked was priority 1, and this system we've got does this. I've always worried about us when we concede first in this system, because I'm not too sure it was so set up to then go and win a game back. But I think, like I said earlier, that when Clark did start, we were playing with a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 of variations of the two. So I think we've got the players in the squad that can deliver that system. They've clearly worked on it before, and with 5 subs, if you can throw on Fraser and Forrest at the same time, you can completely change the shape of the team. So I think wingers are certainly an option, but I think that's more a break glass in case of emergency option for me.
Yeah, I think Fraser and Forrest and Armstrong, Christie are all guys that can play wide. So we can clearly do it if we want to do it. Especially Forrest. Forrest has never let Scotland down. He's just, like, you know what you're going to get from James Forrest. He's going to put his head down if it can go down any further, because he's not really got an egg. And he's just going to sprint his life out, get to the byline, get the ball in, score the occasional goal. Fraser cutting inside for the left is really dangerous when he's on song. So we've got the options to change it up. David Turnbull even coming off the bench to be a playmaker. He's excelled in the second half of this season. So I'm pretty confident in terms of the strength and depth of this squad, because if we do need to go for it, as you say, if it's not working and we're going behind in games, we've got the ability, especially with 5 subs, to make those changes and really kind of go at teams and bring a different... Like, you could even go with Gilmore and Turnbull together in the centre mid, maybe with a McTominay. If you need ball players on and it becomes a possession game, there's all sorts of things you can do with this team.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's again, just going back to the overall squad, there's options that we maybe didn't feel like we had before, and good quality options, players that can, make an impact, players that are playing again at high. I mean, Ryan Fraser's playing for Newcastle in the Premier League, and come on the rocks, he is just a luxury, Gavin Swanky.
Always finds a way to get a Bobby Leonard Swanky reference on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that I'd be surprised if there's any immediate change from the back 5. I would more be, as Gordon said, what's the alternative if we need to score goals. But it all depends on how the game's going, right? Just because you're losing doesn't necessarily mean that you have to change your setup. It might just mean that you need to change the personnel in that setup. For example, we could be creating lots of chances, but we're not, finishing them the way we should. So you maybe bring on a Shea Adams or a Kevin Nisbet. So it's not always a correlation to the formation that's the reason that you're not winning.
Yeah. Just to bounce off, Gashead there's asking if we're worried about emotions boiling over because the likes of McTominay, Robertson all wear hearts in their sleeves. I'd be more worried about that with a full Hampden. I think the fact that there's only going to be 12,000 people there might play in our favour because, if you're in the first game of a tournament, the players haven't played in front of crowds for forever, and you had a full raucous stadium, that would be the potential to boil over, I think. But as nice as it's going to be to have that noise there and have the kind of 12k, I don't think it's going to make them go over the kind of the emotional barrier, if that makes sense. And the mentality of this strong's really strong as it is. So I think McTominay's the only one I'd be worried about getting kind of silly yellows, that kind of thing.
Well, Dykes as well, to be fair, has got previous for sort of throwing himself about and making some very, very daft challenges. I think you're right. I think that is probably the only thing I'm genuinely quite worried about going into this game and going into this tournament. Czech Republic, Croatia, England, they've all been to so many major finals that they just know how it works. They know how to play the moment and how to handle the moment. And I guess my greatest nightmare would be that we find ourselves leading in a game and we throw away a lead because suddenly the thought appears in players' minds. They're like, oh my God, we're going to win a major finals game. We're going to qualify for the knockouts. And that just, it short circuits something. And even just for a split second, if the attention drops, that's when teams as we learned in the friendly against the Netherlands, teams with players of the quality that they've got, they will punish you in a split second. So that's my big fear.
I mean, we saw it happen with the women's team, didn't we, in the Argentina game? So let's hope we avoid that.
I've still got PTSD from that, mate.
But yeah, what do you reckon, Gavin?
I was just going to say that whilst we have to be worried about our players, I don't know why I'm going all dark. Have to be worried about our players. I think the Czech Republic might have similar things to worry about. I mean, Patrick Schick in the last competitive game that the Czech Republic played got sent off, got straight red cards. I think Susek for West Ham can be a bit hot-headed at times. So I think these things don't just impact Scotland, and to get on Gordon's mindset train, I think if we view it as narrow as it's only Scotland we have to worry about this thing happening to, then that's naive. Czech Republic have got the exact same problem. It's a major tournament for them. There's question marks over some of their players. I just think that that environment can be just as difficult for the Czech Republic, and that scenario can be just as difficult for them as it could be for us, and that can play in our advantage, right? So, keep that in our mind. Whilst we should be worried about it, I'm sure there'll be plenty of fans from Czechoslovakia that will have the exact same feeling on that that worry of someone being reckless in a competitive game.
As much as today is must win for us, it's must win for them as well.
Yeah, both teams go into it thinking they need the 3 points, don't they? It's a massive game to get started. It's probably the best way to start, in all honesty, when you think about it, that you'd rather get this game out of the way first rather than potentially have a disappointment before going into a must-win game. At least you start fresh and you can just give everything to it. And even if you don't get the win, ultimately you've still got a chance. So I think it works out well mentality-wise for us, that way around. Who's stopping Souček in the air is a question. Many big strong lads in the English Prem haven't been able to. I think that's where Grant Hanley comes in for Scotland. He's there to do a job, and Clark clearly trusts the life out of him. Cooper looked really good in the friendly, I thought, against the Netherlands, but I'm assuming it's Grant Hanley because he is the kind of go-to kind of centre of the defence pick for Clark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Sorry, Gordon, on you go.
No, it's Gav. We spoke earlier about how on the left and the right, Tierney and Hendry are very much those guys that will carry the ball out. They're the ball playing guys. That leaves Grant Hanley to be in the middle and just very much focus on the things he's very, very good at, which are blocks, tackles, headers. So yeah, I've got a lot of faith in Grant Hanley. I know he's not a particularly fashionable player for the Tartan Army. I think he's unfairly maligned based on what he did or didn't do under Gordon Strachan. But I think in the system we play now, I think he's perfectly suited to it.
I have never seen the phrase Norwich Nesta, so I appreciate that one as well. But yeah, anything to jump in there with, Gav?
Just the same. I think it'll be Hanley that'll be tasked with sort of man marking Soucek, but we've got a good sized team, like in terms of height. I think that might be another reason why Dykes maybe comes in from the set piece aspect. I think, I'd be very surprised if there was anything different. I think one of the things we need to be very careful of is not giving away, these marginal opportunities from set pieces. So no silly free kicks in wide areas. Try and limit the number of corners. I know it's obvious, right? But that you've seen it in this tournament already. Goals from set pieces, and it's always the same at every sort of European or world competition where set pieces is a real focus, because you've got a group of players that haven't played together that often. So the best way to make or get the best output is to make the most of the situations where you have complete control, and that's in a set piece. How you set up that set piece is entirely down to the team that has the attacking set piece. So we need to really limit them, because I think that'll be a way that they try and create chances. I think it will be a real clear focus, and I think we really need to be disciplined, not giving silly fouls away to allow crosses into our box. Because if I have one gripe with David Marshall is that I don't love him coming for the ball. I think that he could do a little bit better there, and I think that's where we just have to make sure that we're on our game. But Steve Clarke will know this, right? Steve Clarke will have done his homework. The team will know exactly what they're up against, and I think we've got a good chance here.
I'll throw this comment in that came up just a couple of minutes ago, because I think this ties in. We're 100% sure initially McTominay won't play centre-back because Clark said so. He said he'll be a midfielder, but I think he's almost a guaranteed starter in the centre mid regardless of what happens, because he gives you another presence in defence from set pieces. It means you can put in a Callum Henry who's also got a bit of height, but McTominay is also there for defending against big men. And it's something he's pretty good at, just putting pressure on guys, hopefully not going over the top and giving away penalties. But Dykes has lacked a wee bit of a form, but again, we've already talked in depth about the kind of the dirty side of the game that he gives you.
To be fair, until Shea Adams joined the Scotland squad in March, and I don't know, maybe causation, maybe not correlation, but immediately after Shea Adams joined the Scotland squad, Lyndon Dykes went on a ridiculous scoring run since March for QPR. I think he finished with like 7 or 8 goals in his last 10 games for QPR.
Yeah,
so
he just suddenly turned on, didn't he?
Yeah. There you go. Bit of pressure for his starting shirt.
I know obviously goals are important to a striker, right? I don't disagree with that, but I think if you're wanting Lyndon Dykes to be the guy that's going to get you 15 goals, then you've signed the wrong player. If that's the the purpose of him. If you're wanting someone that will be an absolute nuisance to deal with, that will be physical, that will be the ball up for you, then you've signed the right player. I think we get too caught up in yes, it's a striker's job to score goals, but if he's able to create for others, if he's able to relieve pressure, if he's able to do all these different things, then I think there's more to his game. And yes, I feel like I'm absolutely on Lyndon Dykes bandwagon, and I will never get off it, no matter what anyone says. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him, and I think that we need to, like, in an international setup, I think he's perfect for it. Whilst, yes, every player will have bad games, but just because he's not scoring doesn't mean that he's not doing the right things.
Yeah, and he's there to do a job, and he does a job really well on the physical side of the game. Like, kind of looking ahead to the England game, I think Dykes is a guaranteed start as well. We've talked about it like a wee bit, but when you get guys like Tyrone Mings there, that's what he does. A defender that's got any seed of doubt in them, you just let him battle them, basically, and try and stay over on the right side of the cautions and the yellow cards. But he is the battering ram that gives the guys behind him a chance to really turn it on. And occasionally, if there's a ball that comes across, he's more than capable of sticking it away. He's shown that in the past. He will miss his fair share of chances, but I think he's really valuable overall to the way we're set up and the way we're going to play.
Yeah, totally agree. I think one of the things I love the most about the Scotland side is that, for the first time that I can really remember as a Scotland fan, that you can almost tell exactly what each player's role is in the team because they execute it and time again. So this team is so well drilled; they know exactly what they're doing. So, yeah.
Pete, did I just hear that London Knights is going to score 15 at the Euros, inject that right into me?
Yes.
Golden boot incoming from love that, the Julian effect. Yeah, let's not keep going with Arbroath chat, gents. Jack Hamilton get 8 and 14 for Arbroath. But I guess the only other thing when I'm looking at this game that puts a little seed of doubt in my mind is right back, because I've got a funny feeling, not initially, but a funny feeling by the time the Croatia game rolls round, that Patterson might well get the shout ahead of O'Donnell. Like, initially he's going to go O'Donnell because he's the man that's got us there and he's got the experience, but is there a chance that he loses his spot during this tournament, do we think?
I'm going to say...
Sorry, go on, Gav.
You go, Gordon. No, you go, mate.
Yeah, no. I think O'Donnell is one of those guys that he can come in for a bit of a hard time, and he certainly did in his early caps. But he's a real symbol of what it means to play the same team time and again, and how they grow and build together. Because Stephen O'Donnell has improved with every single cap he's got. And you look at so many of the goals that Scotland have scored in recent years, especially the one that Christie scored again in Belgrade, they've come from Stephen O'Donnell pressing high up the pitch. And that really is where this system lives or dies. It's, can the fullbacks get high? Can they press? Can they turn the ball over? And Stephen O'Donnell does that time and time again. So I think he has more than earned his starting jersey in this tournament. He's the man for right. He's Mr. Right now. Is he Mr. 5 years from now? Of course not. Nathan Patterson is coming and will come, and his time will come. Whether it comes in this tournament, he's had every opportunity to impress Steve Clarke in the last few weeks in training. So if he's good enough, he's old enough. So it's an exciting debate to have, because for so long the right back position has not been tied down since Alan Hutton basically hung up his boot.
It's only been a couple of years since we had Tierney filling in at right back, hasn't it? So it's amazing how things change so quickly. But I will give you the last word, Gavin.
I was just going to say much the same as Gordon. I don't think there's any real rush to put Patterson in. I think Stephen O'Donnell's totally fine. He knows Steve Clarke's system from his time at Kilmarnock as well. There's a lot of replications, and I think that we should be delighted that we have have a scared Gordon there.
I think he's coming in for a flourish at the end.
I think that I'm fine with O'Donnell just now, and it's just good to know that if something happens to O'Donnell, we have a starting right back ready to come in. And Nathan Patterson was before it would have been a concern. So all good for me on just overarching. I think that O'Donnell's the right man for today, as Gordon alluded to.
Gordon was only just wanting to show his kilt off there, folks. That's the only reason he got
Yeah. Sorry, lads. That was the doorbell. So,
but that is appropriate timing because we have slightly overrun. So, both thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate
no problem.
it. We only have, I'm just trying to work this out in my head, 4 hours left. It's so close. So close. I'm on to Scotland. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to make... Are we going to make predictions? Are we doing predictions or are we leaving that?
1-0.
Oh, right, okay. 1-0 to the good guys?
Yes.
Imagine that after all that, and then goes like, no, 1-0 Czech Republic.
Yeah. No chance.
I'll say Scotland 2-0. I'll go even more positive. I think we're going to do it today.
I'm going to go 2-0 as well. I'm feeling pretty confident. Hopefully it's not misplaced, is the word that came out earlier on. But again, thanks very much, guys. If you haven't done so already, go and give the Tartan Scarf a follow, because there's going to be full Scotland propaganda the whole way through this tournament, regardless of what happens. Give Gavin a follow as well with Pure Football. Just gives you a wee bit more kind of depth to your usual analysis, especially with the media we've got that just kind of go, oh, Scotland good, Scotland bad. So it's just nice to have people that actually care a bit more about our game and so on. But enjoy your day. Hopefully it's a positive one for us. I'll be back here greeting positive or negative tomorrow, regardless what happens. I'll be happy tears or sad tears. And I will catch you later on.
Let's do it.